Hi, this is Todd Hart, and I'm going to present my research thesis for Research and Evaluation, Florida Atlantic University, fall 2015. Okay, my topic I chose is table tennis improves reaction time for all hand-eye coordination sports. Okay, Chapter 1, this is the introduction. Okay, so we're talking about hand-eye coordinated sports, and they involve most of the sports being played today, except for obviously soccer, but they revolve around the ability to react quickly, to hit, catch, dig a ball, a puck, or in this case a shuttlecock being thrown at very fast speeds. Okay? Even though you might not guess it, the badminton smash is the fastest of these moving objects at 306 miles per hour. Okay? These are some, again, that looks at what you look in power positions. The jump smash, followed by the highlight throw, which is the second fastest, followed by, this is a squash serve, obviously tennis serve, Roger Federer, the slap shot, the baseball pitch, the cricket ball, the volleyball spike, and lastly, the slowest of all of the moving, quickly hit objects is the table tennis smash. Okay? So keep that in mind. In the next frame, you're seeing what the speeds actually are. The highlight throw is 186 miles an hour, squash is 176, the tennis serve is 163, slap shot 114, baseball pitch, the highest is 108, cricket ball 100, volleyball spike moves about 95 miles an hour, and last is that tennis smash, the table tennis smash. That ping pong ball is only moving about 75 roughly miles per hour when it's being smashed. So these sports all require rapid reflexes, and the maximum speed of a tennis ball doesn't even get anywhere close to 200 miles an hour, which the badminton one is moving at. So, in the various tests that record the speed of the table tennis ball, either with a laser gun or a camera, it shows that the fastest, the hardest the guys can hit it is about 75 miles an hour. And then immediately, because of the ball, because it's so light, as soon as it leaves the racket, it's slowing down. So bear that in mind. Now, here's what the important part of this is. The fact that the table tennis table is only 5 feet wide and 9 feet long. So as far apart as the players become, it's not very far apart. And so in the similar sports, racket sports like tennis and badminton, where it can reach up to 200 miles an hour, these players in this sport, tennis or badminton, you have about 0.3 seconds, 0.3 of a second to react to the ball coming towards you. In baseball, you got about half a second before you decide you have to swing the bat. Okay, so again, think about reaction time. The fact that in tennis, you have a pretty long time from that racket, even though it's moving fast. Same thing, baseball, 60 feet away. The slap shot, again, couldn't be a lot closer. This is my boy Nick Lucena. You're looking at the future gold medalist here, Rio 2016. Remember that. Digging a volleyball. But again, that table tennis smash, that ping pong smash, even though it's moving slower, the reaction time is much smaller, which you'll see. So again, if we're taking into account how fast the racket's moving, how fast the ball's moving, in table tennis, because of the length of the table being so small, it only takes about 1/10 of a second for that smash to reach the under the table. And so that is well below the normal reaction time for most players. In other sports, you know, even though the ball or the puck or whatever shuttlecock's moving faster, you have a lot more time because of the distance to react to the ball or the object. Okay? So, because hand-eye coordination is crucial in all the hand-eye sports, where you have to track, aim, react to a ball, catch it, dig it, hit it, the neural substrate of the eye-hand-eye coordination is very complex, and it involves parts of the nervous system responsible for vision, eye movements, hand-eye coordination. Visual targeting requires signal conduction and processing along the visual pathway and activation of ocular or the eye reflexes for saccadic, which we're going to get to explanation of that, and pursuit eye movements. So, some integration with spatial cognition may also be required. So the ability of visually processing the information. So retinal processing of the visual information alone takes a good 40 to 50 milliseconds, and add to that another 40, 50 milliseconds it takes for the signal to reach the primary visual cortex, and initiating the eye movements themselves takes 100 to 140 milliseconds. So on top of that, just the processing of it, The skilled limb movements require activation, inhibition of the appropriate alpha motor neurons that move the muscles and the corticospinal and other descending motor tracts that actually moves the signal down to the muscle. So here's our problem. In the hand-eye coordinated sports, reaction time is key to the athlete's ability to respond to a visual stimulus, because no one plays with their eyes closed, and coordinate it with the appropriate response, the catch, the hit, the return, and whether the athlete has to do those things. Hit a fastball, catch the slap shot as the goalie has to do, return the smash, dig a spike. Their ability to do that, to react to that stimulus, will determine how successful they are in their sport. So here's the purpose of the study. And the purpose of the study is to prove that table tennis training will actually improve choice reaction time in all the hand-eye coordinated sports. So this study will show a viable means to improve reaction time without the rigorous training involved in regular sports training. So after you've already done all your sports training, your lifting, your weightlifting, at the end of the day you can still play table tennis and improve your reaction time, which will translate across to the sport you're actually playing. So here's my hypotheses. The null hypothesis is that there will not be a significant improvement in reaction time in the athletes with the table tennis training. Thus, the alternative hypothesis is there will be a significant improvement in reaction time in the athletes with the table tennis training. So here's the significance of the problem. So because all the hand-eye coordination sports rely on that reaction time, how quickly you react, to make that decisive decision to react, the ability of the athlete to accurately respond to the incoming stimulus and perform the skill that is needed is the determining factor of success in their sport. So if the athlete could somehow improve their reaction time, then their performance of the sport will improve because they're going to be quicker in their reaction time. So we're going to go through some operational definitions. So coincidence anticipation timing is a visual ability involving anticipating the arrival of a moving object or tracking it and making a motor response to the exact movement of the moving target. So if I see something come across the screen, I can grab it or touch it like the ball that I have to catch. So reaction time, in this case, we're just describing reaction time, not choice reaction time. The time it takes from the introduction of the stimulus, the visual response, to the initiation of an actual physical response to that. So movement time is the time from the initial movement to the end of the movement. All right, sensory cognitive skills. The ability of a person to understand and respond to a stimulus from the sensory system. Okay, that brings us to attentional control or attention control, and that's the individual's capacity to focus on what they need to focus on to and ignore the external environment. So that's really important for your athletes. Here's your saccadic eye movements. These are rapid eye movements that your eyes do that correct for positional error for eye and target and allows you to track something that most of the time is usually stationary. On the other side of that, we'll get to smooth pursuit training, but response time is the time it takes from the introduction of the stimulus to the end of the necessary movement, okay? The actual time it takes to respond. Perceptual motor learning, the process of improving the smoothness and accuracy of the movements, how smooth you are in your hand-eye coordination. The hand-eye reaction time, this is the actual time it takes to move a specific hand and or hands to a determined point in response to an introduced, usually in this case, a visual stimulus. In track, it's an auditory stimulus. And then we have our smooth pursuit training. So this is that training that improves that slow eye movement that allows a person to track an object and again respond to catch, dig, hit that you have to do in sports. Okay, so hand-eye coordination is the coordination of one or both hands moving to intercept a moving target. Again, whether you got to hit it, whether you got to catch it. And proprioceptive training is the training to improve the spatial awareness of a person. So you know where you're at in space. So you can close your eyes and that response of your body knowing where it is in space. Hicks' law is a law that states the amount of information that an individual is presented with, so the amount of stimulus that comes in, the amount of time will increase to process that information. So more stimulus, the brain takes more time to process information. The delimitations of the study. This study will be limited to 48 volunteer athletes who will work or serve as the participants. And we're only using 4 sports: volleyball, baseball, tennis, and softball will be compared. And these athletes from the 4 sports will be tested out of their seasons in the summer season. So they're not actually in their sports season. And this study will include both male and female subjects. Limitations. So this study will only be used on Division I athletes. All the participants will be between the ages of 18 and 22. All participants will be volunteers, and the study will only be for 12 weeks. Okay, we're going to get into the literature review. I've explored the literature and found studies that give background information, or studies as close to what you get for table tennis, hand-eye coordination, reaction time, and sports performance. This will provide the platform and understanding for my study. I feel that reaction time is the key to hand-eye coordinated sports. So instead of going through all of the literature review, we're just going to do the summary of literature. So the 2 studies by Memon and Nuri et al., 2011-2013, they stated that the athletes have greater sensory cognitive skills, and it's related specifically to the sport they're playing. And you can improve the basic visual skills, and when you improve those basic visual skills, that'll improve your sports performance. Most of this is logic. Most of this makes perfect sense to most people. So in the next 2 studies by Subramaniam and Menalal, 2014, and Salin and Sagan, 2015, they stated that significant improvements were found in the coincidence, again, back to that coincidence, anticipation, timing, performance, reaction time, and hand-eye coordination. They were improved after proprioception training, so improving spatial awareness. And then significant correlations were found between reaction time and again, the ability of the athlete to pay attention to what they need to in national level Indian athletes. Okay, again, the 2 studies by Lalonde, 2015, and Gignac and Vernon, 2004, they found that the significant increase of hand-eye coordination in an interception task with the use of the hand, as opposed to only tracking it with the eyes, or using the hand to track, improves as opposed to just using just your eyes. And then that both hemispheres, right or left hand that controls the body, they're capable of negotiating the demands of reaction time, whether it's dominant hand or non-dominant hand. Okay, and the next 2 studies by Simonek, 2011, and Ack and Kosak in 2010, they stated the experts in baseball can extrapolate a moving target better if they're, again, if they have more experience. Again, they call it experts, again, more baseball knowledge or more time in the game, as opposed to novices or kids or younger players just learning the game. So that they can extrapolate the moving target better, and it actually, that intensive practice improves the go-no, which is that swing or not swing reaction time in baseball players. So on top of that, the tennis players have significantly faster hand-eye reaction times than the baseball players. And table tennis players have a lower reaction time than even the tennis players. So fastest reaction time goes to the table tennis players. So, methods. The participants we use demographically, in male and female, both 24 athletes. We're going to select from FAU's, again, baseball team, 12 from there, 12 from the women's softball, 12 from each of the men and women's volleyball teams. Now, what I think I made a mistake on is I don't believe we have a men's volleyball team at FAU, so we'll have to restructure that. But, so the athletes will be between the ages of 18 and 24, and to be eligible to study, the athletes must meet the following inclusion criteria. They have to be in good standing with their team. They must be between the age of 18 and 24, and they must be willing to, again, volunteer to the training in the summer semester. Okay, that moves us to our sampling. So you use a convenience method. Just going to send out an email to the athletes from the sports, to each team member, to get, again, 12 from each team. The email will ask the athlete if they'd like to participate in the study, It won't include any specific information, but it will explain again what we're going to do and how it will be implemented, and then a description of the 3 inclusion criteria, which are easy enough to understand. And then if they want to, then they'll respond yes. So again, hopefully you get 12 out of that from each team. And for our procedures, on the first day, they'll be asked to complete a health history questionnaire and sign an informed consent form. And then after that, then we do the baseline measures. Height, weight, and age will all be measured and recorded. Okay, so after that first day, when you go through the baseline recording, we're going to have them run through their first section of choice reaction. So this is where you're introduced to a stimulus and you have to react to that stimulus. So we have an SVT board, which I'll show in a minute. And the objective is to, the SVT board, it has a specific design of 3 active sensors, 3x3 block on one side of the board and a 3x3 block on the other side, and a piece of tape down the middle which signify the center of the body where they're going to line up. So the sensors on the left side respond to response with the left hand, signals on the right hand respond with the right hand. And so you're going to keep your hands below a specific point, and at that point when the sensor lights up, you're going to react and touch the sensor as quick as you possibly can. So the program uses a random reactive mode, so the random lights will pop up, and there's going to be random pre-periods to try to shut the response time down so that they can't anticipate what's going to come. Okay? So each athlete will be required to perform 10 separate trials, 5 being practiced and then 5 to actually be recorded. So in order to consider there going to be a mastery of this test, 70% of those touches will have to be actively on the screen. So 13 of the 18 sensors, when they react to touch, they have to actually be able to touch that many to get the 70% score. So if they touch a sensor and sometimes the light doesn't turn off, then we'll repeat the trial. Okay. So after we finish the 12 weeks of training, we're going to do retest exactly the same way. Exact same test, 3x3 reaction time, again, the 5 trials, and then what we'll use is the average of the 5 trials, both pre and post, for the statistical analysis. Okay, the instrumentation. So we'll explain again more about this tool, and I'll show you what it looks like in a second. So it's called a Sport Vision Trainer, hand-eye coordination trainer, and we chose the 80 light system. And so the SVT is an advanced tool to design to test and train hand-eye coordination and reaction time. It has been marketed specifically for athletes and used to mimic many hand-eye coordination movements that you use in sports. So this is what the screen actually looks like. So we will put a piece of tape down the middle, and there'll be a 3x3 block on each side that they would react to and touch. Okay? Made by a company in Australia. So it comes with 2 types of boards. The 32 sensor board, we have the 80 sensor board. They're 8 centimeter circles with lights in the middle to present the visual stimulus. And once it's touched, the timer stops and the data is recorded. So each board comes with a laptop, runs through window-based software, and that controls the board. And this instrument has been used in previous studies and has proved to be both valid and reliable. So, to statistical techniques. The statistical analysis will be determined by a one-way analysis of variance, which is ANOVA, using SPSS software 20.0. The independent variables are the specific sports of baseball, softball, men and women's volleyball, and the dependent variables are the hand-eye reaction times for each athlete in the sports. So that one-way ANOVA we run for each of the dependent variables for each athlete to determine the difference between reaction times, both pre and post. The significance level is set, p-value at 0.05. So if a significant difference is found, then the null hypothesis will be rejected and the alternative hypothesis will be accepted. A power analysis will be done before the study to determine if the sampling size that I chose is big enough. And then after the study, an effect size will be determined using Cohen-Dee's equation, and that significance level is set at p is greater than 0.05. That brings us to our references. that's it. Thank you very much for your time, ladies and gentlemen.